Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about, afternoons of the news you need to know about. We run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. We'll start with Jonnu Smith because nothing has really happened. The latest report is still the same one that Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, interviewed on a radio station, talking about how Jonnu Smith still wants to be a Dolphin. In quotes, he's quoted as saying it's still fluid, the contract negotiations between the two. And it does kind of seem like they were trying, the Dolphins themselves were betting against the fact that, okay, yeah, no, there's no other team going to offer you more money than we are. And it kind of seems like they were right, at least so far. So we'll see where everything shakes out. I'm a huge Jonnu Smith fan. I think he's a very rare talent, and he fits this offense really well. And he had a really nice rapport with Tua last year. And he actually would have had a much better season if Tua never got hurt. It's crazy to think. I mean, he had 88 receptions, which is a pretty high number. Obviously, he set a bunch of franchise records. And that was without good quarterback play for a good chunk of the year. So I'm excited. I hope he stays. Like, I don't want to get too excited because as Dolphins fans, we all know, like, this thing, we had one good tight end year and it was wasted when the entire roster was in flux and had a lot of stuff going on. So I just hope this season we can bring him back. I love this group so offensively. I think this is the most complete group that Mike McDaniel has had. If Jonnu Smith stays. Because I don't think, if Jonnu Smith stays, I don't really see, there's not a hole, in my opinion, and I know, like, you have to be a Patrick Paul fan to say that, I guess, but, like, I just don't think there's a hole in this offense, honestly. So, and people forget Patrick Paul he started NFL games last year and looked really good, and especially, and I bring this up all the time, but that Jets home game, he was dominant. And now he wasn't going against an all-pro player or anything like that, but still, I mean, he was dominating his matchup at the NFL level, which I think is and even more games that he played. He played pretty good football. So it's a complete group. Hopefully Jonnu Smith can stay. I honestly, like, again, and people have brought this up, but it's like, okay, we're trying to win now. Then why cause more trouble than there needs to be? And then again, it's like, did the Dolphins do this, or did the fact that it's like, oh, Jonnu Smith just wants a new contract? So I don't know if it's necessarily their fault. I just hope that they make it a priority to keep him. Their cap space management has been the worst, especially with free agency and trades. I think that's like the biggest mark on Chris Greer's resume over the last 4 years, is like the Jalen Ramsey move really messed a lot of things up, and you let a lot of your young core leave, which you should have used that money to re-sign them, at least one of them. Like the fact that he let Christian Wilkins and Javon Holland go, who are all really young, really good players. It just, every time I think about it, really makes me mad. So we got to move on from it. It is what it is. It's something that the Dolphins as a franchise have suffered from for many years, is letting young talent leave. They've done it a few times. I mean, Olivier Vernon's another one that I can think of. And, Lamar Miller, I guess he had some good years left in him. There's some other play. I mean, obviously Mika Fitzpatrick, that was a very unique situation, but still fits in that category. So, there's been a lot of players that have just left that we drafted that ended up being good players, and we just kind of like, all right, well, we'll waste our money on free agents that won't be here for 3 years after, or maybe even after another year that we signed them, and they're disappointing. That's what Jalen Ramsey was. He was disappointing. He wasn't as good of a player as Christian Wilkins and Javon Holland, and he wasn't as good of an investment as those two would have been. It just was a massive mistake, and every time I think about it, it's terrible. So, anyway, moving on from that. Hopefully we can get that deal done. What article do we want to discuss this with? I guess we'll start with this. They did a Pro Football Rumors in an article, which I thought was interesting, and just listing every fifth-year option that every team is going to have to decide on this upcoming season, and obviously Jalen Phillips is on it. That's going to be a really interesting thing to monitor. This is a big season for Jalen Phillips. It's like a tale of two roads. He cannot get injured again, because then his career would take a really weird turn. And it's like, if he did get hurt again, would the Dolphins get him on a cheaper deal? Would they even re-sign him? These are things that I don't know, but it's a big season for him. He hasn't played a lot of football the last 2 years, so I'm excited. Hopefully we can get a healthy Jalen Phillips season, which I don't think has happened since he's been a Dolphin. Even his rookie year, I think he missed a few games, or maybe I'm misremembering that. But it's a big deal, and one of my favorite. This defensive line is elite. It's very good. It would have been nice to have Christian Wilkins on this defensive line. But, Kenneth Grant, who I have a lot of hopes in, from things that we've read with so far with the offseason reviews. Now, listen, pads haven't been on, but it's been very positive with Kenneth Grant, so I'm very excited about him. So this defensive line has a chance to be really special, and I'm excited to see what kind of season Jalen Phillips can kind of give us with a really talented defensive line. And then, a lot of people, like Chop Robinson is coming off the bench, for God's sakes, which is honestly how Anthony Weaver wanted to use him his rookie year anyway, because, he brought it up so many times that Chop is still working on being a three-down player. Now, he got better at that as the season went on, but I think if Anthony Weaver could have his, okay, this is how I would ideally want the situation to be. It would have Chop Robinson and put him in situations where he can succeed the most, and I'm excited about that as well. So this next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors as well. Tyreek Hill did an interview at Fanatics, and he basically was like he's going to try to get Jalen Ramsey to stay and be a Miami Dolphin. According to multiple sources, it depends on who you read. It's either he's going to be traded in the next 3 days, he's not going to be traded anytime soon. Some reports, I think Adam Schefter of ESPN had a report that he's not going to be traded until maybe sometime in training camp if a corner gets hurt. The biggest problem, and everybody knows what the biggest problem is he's 30 years old on a contract that pays him like he's still one of the best young corners in the NFL. And he's not. So, that's just the situation that they put themselves in. Honestly, in an ideal, perfect world, Tyreek Hill can somehow get Jalen Ramsey to stay. Is that going to happen? No, it's not. I would rather have him play for the Dolphins than have to pay half of his contract to play somewhere else. That's really what it comes down to. I hope Tyreek Hill can somehow smooth it out. There's no way. Even the head coach doesn't even want to talk about him. So, obviously, he's left his mark on the organization, and they seem to be done with him. But I hope that, I don't know, maybe Tyreek Hill can work some kind of weird magic. I have no idea. Tyreek Hill is insane. He's a crazy person. He said a lot of crazy things. I think one of the nicest things about him doing this many interviews lately is it's clear that he's going to be a Dolphin this season, which is awesome. So we don't have to read about that anymore. But I don't know. Maybe he can somehow get him to stay. This next news story also comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins. It's regarding the Dolphins running back depth chart. Eric Studesville said this is a quote from the Miami Herald. He said, quote, "Each guy makes his own role on this team. I don't think we predetermine that. I think you got to expose them to everything and see what they can do and let them develop into the role that they clearly take and establish on their own through what they do well." Okay, so if we can... no disrespect to Eric, who's been here for a long time, but he does not. We know who plays and who doesn't play, and it's not Eric. No disrespect. Mike McDaniel obviously has, he's going to put out the players he wants. He makes the personnel groupings. He's the dang offensive coordinator, for God's sakes. So, and if we can take anything from his other seasons as coaching this football team, he doesn't like playing rookies. So they have to really earn it. I mean, Malik Washington didn't play for a while, and that was a mistake. Like, if you look at earlier in the season when people forget this, but Robbie Anderson played games early on in that year. No, he didn't. No, I think I'm blanking, or maybe he did. I can't remember. But the point is that Malik should have played. Our depth wasn't great at the receiver position, especially if he isn't playing. And obviously Malik got better as the year went on. Same thing with Jalen Wright, who I would say, like, when Tua got hurt, especially on the road against the Patriots, it's like, okay, he's taking a lot of snaps. He's doing very well with those reps. And then I would say when Tua came back and then later in the season, he just disappeared. Now, a lot of that had to do with the run game just disappearing. But, he didn't play. Devon Achane played, and the running game wasn't there. So he just didn't play. So I would not expect Ollie Gordon to get it would be a miracle if Ollie Gordon supplanted Jalen Wright as the second running back. They did draft him to be more, and this is why they also drafted Alexander Madison as well, to be more of a power back, so maybe that's where he can find his role. The thing about Ollie Gordon that's cool is, like, he's a really good receiver. So it's going to be really interesting to see how does it work out? And, Jeff Wilson got, a lot of reps out of nowhere sometimes. So maybe Ollie Gordon has the Jeff Wilson role, or it's probably going to be, if I had to get, it's probably going to be Alexander Madison who has that role in short yardage. And Alexander's not a bad receiver either. So I think he'll probably have that role. And then your two main guys will be Devon Achane and Jeff Wilson. Or not Jeff Wilson, excuse me. Jalen Wright. It'll be Devon Achane, Jalen Wright. Those are your two main guys. And then I think the guy who's going to have the Jeff Wilson role will probably be Alexander Madison, and we'll see how much of Ollie Gordon we get. It depends on how well he does as a player, obviously. Like, if he's super special, and he has the talent to be, he's very unique, then he might get more reps. But I think, looking at it right now from what we know, I think that's probably what the rotation will look like, and that's just how Mike has operated, at least. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Ravens cornerback Jair Alexander considered Dolphins and Falcons, and obviously ultimately ended up signing with the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, he has a history with Lamar Jackson. They both played at Louisville. Reading this, I was like, because, okay, if you remember, the report first came out that Jair wasn't on the Dolphins' radar. So reading this kind of really bummed me out. Sad. They could have had Jair, but at the end of the day, it's a bummer at the same time. But it's like, all right, it doesn't really bother me that much. I don't know. I'm interested to see, and again, the secondary is the biggest question mark on this roster. It's not even close. They have so many young players in the secondary. They don't, and I was talking about this with somebody. This is the first time in a long time that the Dolphins haven't had at least one proven player in the secondary in probably 15 to 20 years, or maybe not that long. It's getting close to, I would say 15 years, maybe 10 to 15, somewhere in there, because we had Xavier for a long time, and then before him we had Brent Grimes, who gave us some pretty good seasons as a corner. We had Rashad Jones. We had, obviously, Javon Holland. We've always had somebody in the secondary. And, Sean Smith before that, Vontae Bell. What is his name? Well, it's not Vontae Bell. It's the safety for the Vontae Davis. So the Dolphins have been kind of blessed for a while with key members in that secondary. And this is the first time in a long time they don't have a proven guy there. So I don't know what's going to happen. If you're an Ethan Bonner guy, then maybe he can become something. Obviously, he's athletically gifted. He's played a little bit, but mostly in garbage time. And then Storm Duck was kind of like up and down a little bit. So it's going to be interesting. They drafted Marshall out of Florida. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, unfortunately. So I don't know. We'll see. It's a very young, unproven secondary. The safeties are the same way, like Ashton Davis and Melifonwu. And then obviously they have two young guys, McMorris, and the safety out of Maryland, whose name's escaping me right now. But, those players are young and haven't played any football. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The safety has been a problem anyway the last few years because Javon Holland's been injured. And then, he's had to take on a much larger load, not only because of the safety deficiencies, but also because the corner situation at times has been pretty bad with the depth. And he's had to kind of come in and, he played a lot of slot corner last year. So there's a lot of things to figure out. They still have Kader Kohu, who's probably their most proven player, who's very inconsistent as a player. He needs to play better against better teams. If, he's had some great games. But he needs to play better, especially against the Bills, and against some of the better teams in the AFC. The 49ers game is a great one. I think as a whole, I think last year was his best season, but he still had moments where it was like, okay, like it's weird. It's like, do we replace him? What do we do with him? Because just like I said, he needs to play better against better competition. But anyway, hopefully he can put together a more consistent season, and he is not a good outside corner. I think we can definitively say that. So he needs to stay in the slot. And hopefully we can kind of keep him there the entire year. But the defensive line is so talented that, I don't know, we'll see. I hope some of these young secondary guys can kind of prove themselves. I mean, you got to remember, Xavier Howard was a no-name out of Baylor, who, obviously a former second-round pick. I don't know. Is there anyone on this team that, I don't know, we'll find out. But that is, to me, that's the biggest, question mark of the, especially the defense and just of the roster as a whole. And I've seen some people say, the depth on this roster isn't very good. I would agree with some of the positions on the team. I think obviously tackle, not having Kendall Lamb anymore, is going to be interesting. What else was I going to say? But the good news is they got younger at those positions, so hopefully they don't have that many issues with that. They got better at quarterback depth. I think the linebacker depth is really good. The defensive line depth is good. That's about as good as you're going to get in the NFL with the defensive line depth. So, corner, the secondary in general is just so unproven. So I don't know. There are places. Receiver depth is really good. I actually like the tight end room. I don't, if Jonnu got hurt, I think Julian Hill, I've said this a lot, I think he actually does have a lot of talent himself. So I would agree and disagree with that. I could totally see, if you're talking about the offensive line, the depth isn't terrible at guard, but, even center, because Liam Eichenberg can play center. But, I guess tackle would be definitely something to keep your eye on. But for the most part, I think the depth isn't that bad. Especially on linebacker. I'm excited to see how the linebackers play this year. Can Tyler Dodson can be a consistent player at that position in the NFL? I'm excited to see that, especially in this defense. Because that could potentially be a really good duo with those two, Jordan Brooks and Dodson. So, and obviously the linebackers might be have the most depth, to be honest with you, and that should lead to better special teams as well. So I'm excited about that. So, I think, is there anything else we can talk about? We could probably talk about some mandatory minicamp stuff. I'm very excited for the season, obviously. I just hope we can not make any more dumb decisions, as a roster. But this, I don't know. Training camp is literally right around the corner. I don't think I forgot to save the articles of the mandatory mini camps, which kind of sucks. We have one right here, but it's just one. I mean, from what I've read and can I think the most okay. I'll just do this. The bullet points of all of the articles together. Zach Wilson has been mixed reviews on him so far, which I think is interesting. Jason Marshall Jr. Some good stuff from Jason Marshall Jr. So that's interesting. Bradley Chubb looks really good, which is great. Tua has looked really good. I think a lot of people, especially Travis Winfield, tweeted about this, about how some of the power throws look really, really good, and it seems like they're trying to practice those a lot more, especially in minicamp with some of the longer, more deep throws, which I think that's a little bit overblown that Tua can't do that. So, obviously, Quinn Ewers has been up and down as well. As very mixed reviews on him. I would say more negative than positive, at least from what I've read. So that's going to be interesting. You really can't tell a ton from 11 on 11s. I think it's training camp, which I'm going to try to do a better job of like saving those articles and saving those practices so that way we can go through them week to week. And I will say this, like some of the worst, some great lies have been told in some of the beat writer coverage of practices over the years with some players, but shout out to Westbrook Ikine is another player that I'm excited to see. Dante Trader Jr. is the young rookie. He's had a really good mini camp. I know we've heard a lot of good things about him. So the secondary has gotten really good like reviews. Willie Gay Jr. is another player, obviously with the linebacker depth, that I really like. I mean, I know he had a down year in New Orleans, but he still was a great special teams player for them, and he has potential to still be a good linebacker in the NFL. He's very, very. I've always liked him. So the secondary so far gotten good reviews, which is actually kind of, I mean, if you believe Jalen Waddle, they believe some of these beat writers, some of the young players like even Dante Trader or Jason Marshall. I'm excited to see McMorris. Does he take another step as a player? So I'm so excited for preseason. I think the preseason is going to be hyped this year because we have Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers to really, I think that's at least going to be entertaining. It's the best quarterback room we've had in a while. You know, it's not Brandon Doughty. It's not Tip Boyle. Who was it? Mike White. Obviously Skylar Thompson for some time. Who was the other one? Oh my God, David Fells. If you guys remember that. Who missed, if you remember, we got an onside kick against Buffalo. And we had Devontae Parker wide open on a go route for the game-winning touchdown, and David Fells just missed him. I don't know, that one always it still sticks with me to this day. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm excited for the season, and I'll see you guys in the next one.